Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Licensing Subcommittee for Monday, the 16th of December at 10 a.m. Let me start with a few housekeeping. We're not expecting a fire alarm. If it does go off, it's the real thing. Please exit the way you came in, and we'll meet outside the Miller's Tap, which is Miller's Tap? Yeah, Miller's Tap, which is out for a licensing hearing. We are being recorded live and viewed live on our Hillingdon YouTube channel. People only on this side of the desk will be seen, and you'll only be heard if you toggle on and toggle off on your speakers there. So when you do speak, please switch on, switch off. Mobile phones, if you could please switch them off. Any other devices that might cause a nuisance. Right, let me introduce myself. I'm Councillor Roy Chamdale. I'm the chairman of the committee. Assisting me in making the decisions, we have Councillor Teddy Barnes and Councillor Janet Gardner. On my right, we have Glenn Egan from Legal to make sure our decisions are legal and just. And Liz Penny on my left from Democratic Services will be taking notes, minutes, and ensuring I follow procedure. We've got other people around the table. If you'd like to introduce yourself, move left to right and tell us who you are.
Stephen Dormer, Licensing Officer, Hillingdon Council.
Terry O'Sullivan, owner of Rise Limited.
Charlie Merritt, I'm the representative of Rise Limited at today's hearing.
Thank you very much. Now we can move on to the agenda. Any apologies for absence?
No apologies, Chairman.
Any declarations of interest coming for this meeting? No interest. Everything is in part one, which is good, because if it's part two, then we'd have to clear the gallery. Any matters that have been notified in advance or urgent? None. And we have all got an addendum sheet. We've got quite a few, have we? Can you confirm that you have the addendum sheet and there's some additional conditions? Have you got all that? Yep. Okay, right. Thank you. All right.
Do you have a copy of the addendum?
So we can kick off. Stephen.
Thank you, Chairman. You've all had the report and the addendum, so I'll highlight the salient points to assist the committee in determining this application. Rise Limited have applied for a premises licence for the premises that was formerly known as the William Jolle Public House. 4 representations have been received to this application by local residents. 1 representation was received by Lois King as a responsible authority for the licensing authority. Conditions have been sought by the licensing authority to enable that the 4 objectives of the Licensing Act of 2003 be met by the applicants. The applicant has met and satisfied the licensing authority by agreeing and offering further conditions to their licence. This will enable Rise Limited to further satisfy the licensing objectives laid out by the Licensing Act 2003. I've circulated the conditions that have been agreed. I've gone off. That have been agreed by the. I'll start that bit again. I've circulated the conditions that have been agreed with the licensing authority to those present at the hearing today. The responsible authority for licensing has withdrawn the representation to this application. My recommendation is to grant the licence consistent with the hours applied for by the. My recommendation is to grant the licence consistent with the hours applied for by the applicant. This is amended. This would be an amendment from what I've initially recommended with the hours in the agenda pack. The following conditions to be added to the licence as specified in Appendix 2 of the published report. I've also taken on board what was agreed between the applicant and the responsible authority for licensing. I recommend the committee add the following conditions. Customers should not be permitted to leave the building with open containers, and music should not be played during the wind-down period. In July 2018, the Licensing Subcommittee did grant a licence previously to a company called Compliance Direct Limited. On that occasion, the licence was granted for the sale of alcohol up until 1 a.m. with a half-an-hour drinking up time on Fridays and Saturdays. This licence was previously transferred into Rise Limited, and a variation to the designated premises supervisor was also carried out by Rise Limited. the applicant may choose to operate this licence as well as the licence that they've applied for today, should they be successful in getting the licence that they required granted. Which does this be very aware that this other licence that was applied for initially by Compliance Direct Limited does have the hours of up until 1 a.m. on a Friday and Saturday. At this stage, I have nothing further to add.
Thank you, Stephen. Could you just go through the hours? It says on your addendum sheet, under live music shall cease 30 minutes before the end of sale of alcohol. So what time is this?
They've applied for... They've applied for... Sorry. 12 o'clock, Councillor. 12 midnight.
So that means any live music that's played shall finish at 11:30. Am I right?
That would be correct.
Any questions, clarifications on what's been presented so far, Councillor? No? Okay. Right. Mr. Sullivan or Mr. Sorry, Charlie, was it?
Mr. Merritt, MERRETT, if that helps.
Definitely does.
Thank you.
Fire away.
Yeah, as a bit of background first, I'd just like to tell you a bit about Quillrise Limited as a company. So Quillrise Limited have operated premises licences in 18 different local authorities and currently operate licences in 8 of those authorities. Currently, they have around 20 licences. And at no point in their history of operating premises have they been reviewed, revoked, or had any noise abatement notices put in place. They are, we would say, a very good operator, and in this case are applying for a licence which would mirror that of the Misty Moon in Northwood. And we're very grateful to Mr. Dormer for noting the slight difference in his appendix to the recommendation to those which have been applied for, and suggesting or recommending that the hours applied for are those granted. And those are found at page 25 of the original hearing, or page 24 and 5 of the original bundle. I don't know how that factors in the addendum, and I'm sorry for any pagination issues. Brilliant. The plan of the premises is contained at page 20 of your addendum bundle. And at the top of the page, if you have it in front of you, that's the front of the premises, which goes out onto the street. And then the rear
Sorry, what page are we looking at?
I believe it's page 20 of your addendum bundle, so the short bundle which was handed up this morning.
Well, I've got no numbers on it. Is that the last page with the... So showing the map of the... Yeah, I've got it.
So at present, there is a gym above this premises. You will see that at the front, there is one window and a door. To the sides of the premises, there are no windows, and there is only one door, which is a fire exit on the left-hand side. And that is only to be used for emergencies and not public access or recreation. And then the rear of the property, again, has no windows or doors. There is a photograph a couple of pages before, I apologize, that's the front of it, of the front of the property. And this would be where pub goers would access it and leave. If all 4 of the objectors live behind the premises, so where the map again on that final page says license plan 53 to 55 the Broadway, there is a street going back there where they all live on. So that isn't accessible directly from the pub. There is no thoroughfare between the pub and there. And actually, to get to that street, residents would have to go and walk around a series of streets before getting onto them. So that in itself should really mitigate any potential nuisance. But in any event, we say that the conditions are adequate to meet the licensing objectives. And the Quillrise Limited's success of running a number of other premises throughout the last decades is indicative of their good style of management. There is, as you've noted, a current license for the premises. That has longer hours. It both starts earlier and finishes later. Quillrise Limited, as I understand it, weren't aware of the existence of this license when they applied for this one. And what they are seeking to do in any event is shorten that, in effect, by the grant of this license. So rather than being able to open and sell at 9, the earliest possible time that this premises could open would be 10 a.m. on a Monday to Saturday, and would be closing at midnight. The only other point in terms of hours that I would like to draw to your attention from our application is there are a number of days in which we are asking for additional hours. It's in your hearing pack, so the main hearing pack, from page 24 onwards. And it's quite difficult to read for that, and I can try and transcribe it if necessary. But what we would be asking for is on certain and specified days of the year for extended hours of opening and the provision of these regulated activities to save us from applying for tens and giving certainty and knowing what will be happening and when. Those days, if you can't quite read them, are bank holidays, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, St. Andrew's Day, St. David's Day, St. George's Day, Halloween, Bonfire Night, Christmas Day, Boxing Day, and all bank holidays, with certain times being requested around New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. In terms of the objections, the 4 objections that have been put before you today against this premises licence being granted, we would note a number of points in response to them. The first of which is Quillrise's excellent history of previous management. We apologise we haven't put these before you today, up and until now, and we won't labour the point, but we do have a number of references which have been provided for an entirely different application. If you would like to see them and would be willing to accept them, we can provide copies. However, if you can't, and that's the furthest we should take it on that point. The second, of course, is that there is no objection from the licensing authority to this, and the recommendation is to grant it. And that recommendation includes, within the report, the statement that both the prevention of public nuisance and prevention of crime and disorder will be met in the granting of this licence as applied for. The third and final point, and it's one that has already been canvassed this morning, is to do with the link, if any, between the street from which the objections are made and the premises. And there really is very little to no link whatsoever, and there is what we say no real risk of any disorder or crime affecting those residents. And on this basis, we would invite you to grant the premises licence for meeting all 4 licensing objectives, for being for a responsible company, and being one which is with agreed conditions and not objected to by the licensing authority. If I can be of any further assistance, please.
Mr. Sullivan, would you like to add anything? Is that fine then? Okay. Is that it?
Unless there's any questions I can ask or
right,
further.
Once you finish your presentation, then we'll move it. Is that it?
Of course, yes, thank you.
Okay, right. Thank you for that. I've got a few. If you go on to the maps, the schematic of the thing. Now this part is according to how we run it. We ask questions on any clarification on what you presented, followed by anybody else, and then we go into a discussion stage. So this is on what you have presented. Now on there you show the entrance and a lobby. Is that double door or is it a single door entrance exit?
Double door.
So it's one opens, one closes, or it can both open at the same time?
One opens and closes before you open the other one, yes.
And on the map itself, where would this live music be taking place?
It would be where you see the kitchen and cellar. There's a table and 2 chairs. It would be in that area. That table and chairs would be moved.
Okay, and how many times will you be holding these live events?
Approximately twice a week, Fridays and Saturdays. And and you will have door staff, SIA door staff. Which days will these be? No, door staff are only if we go beyond the hours that are permitted in the licence. That's when door staff.
So that will be on the bank holidays. Is that what you said?
That is correct, yeah.
So there will be no door staff Fridays, Saturdays?
No, as our premises in Northwoods, we operate with no door staff unless we go for extended hours beyond.
So what hours would then, what times would the door staff will be there then?
They will be there from 9 in the evening till closing time.
Okay. Councillors, I think Councillor Barnes.
Chairman, Mr. Merritt, I just wanted to ask you about these extra days that you have applied for. Can you just give me some more clarification on how successful they are in your other licensed premises? And also, I was quite surprised that you wanted an extension for days like Valentine's Day and Bonfire Night. I mean, are they really that popular?
What we've done, we've just seek to mirror the licence that we already have in Northwood. Because it's a licence in place, it's a licence that we've operated for 12 years with no issues. That for those reasons, we've looked to mirror the licence. It's not guaranteed that we would stay open and use those hours. It would depend on what day of the week it fell in that particular year. Where we have gone for St George's, St David, St Patrick's, it would depend on the clientele that are using the pub at the time. It doesn't mean that we would use that extension just because we've got it. There would have to be a business sense to use it as well, and it had to be returned.
Councillor Gardner.
I'm going to carry on from that slightly. Reading all the days, I can understand, but the bonfire night one worries me slightly because my thing is fireworks, and I have visions of people turning up and maybe causing minor explosions or whatever. I mean, that particular day concerns me quite a lot.
Councillor Gardner, if it is a real issue for you and you would like us to remove that day, I'm happy to do so. As I said earlier to Councillor Barnes, we were just mirroring the licence that this borough has already granted to another premises. And if you would like that removed, I'm happy to do that for you.
Anything else? Hold on. Okay. We had representation given to us from residents. If you note, we have it all in our information pack. We don't have anybody here? No? Okay. So if you note that. Right. Moving on, right. We go to a discussion stage now, where we can ask questions of each other. I shall kick off once again. Going through what's written on the addendum in terms of prevention of crime and disorder. Got that little bit of extra piece of paper we have? Yep. It's not a number, it just says prevention of crime and disorder. Well, it just notes the 4 licensing objectives. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Ninth one down. Known troublemakers shall be barred. Could you tell me how that works?
We will be members of the local pub watch scheme where it is shared. Persons that are barred from other premises, they are shared amongst all other licensed premises, and that is how we get to know of people that should be barred from our premises.
Okay. Under the prevention and crime ministry. Now, these what's been offered?
Yeah, these came in on Wednesday, I believe, and obviously Thursday there was the election was on, so we couldn't get another addendum put together. But in order to demonstrate the transparency as to what we've received, so the residents were clear as to that the applicant has reached an agreement with the licensing authority, I felt it was a need to circulate amongst the members and amongst the residents that have made representations.
Thank you. So it says there free ice water shall be provided to customers. Could you tell me how that connects in with the prevention of crime and disorder, please?
Sorry, that was requested by the council. I believe it's Steve Dormer or Lois. I believe that was requested, and we've agreed to that. It's obviously
yeah,
if people
I get that. I just want to know how you link that in with prevention of crime and disorder, sir.
Right. If people have had quite a bit to drink in the 30 minutes that they're possibly waiting for a cab, we will offer mineral water free. It does say iced. It doesn't really have to be iced, but we will provide that free of charge, and it does have the effect of not that we'd serve anyone drunk, but it will lessen the effect of alcohol.
I don't get that. I'll take it on board. Right, in terms of the residents' objections on your opening hours, it says late night leaving, barrels been moved late at night. There's a question about the Misty Moon's opening hours in terms of correlation with this, but that doesn't affect this application because each application is determined on its own merits, regardless of how you open in your other premises. So if you could tell me a little bit about how you'll be controlling when your patrons leave at midnight. Could you tell me what the process is?
There will be signage clearly inside the premises to leave the premises quietly and respect our neighbours. As far as the moving of barrels, we'll be having no deliveries before 9 o'clock, and there'll be no deliveries after 6 o'clock in the evening.
So that's 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. will be times that you empty your glasses, deliveries and everything else?
That is correct, yes.
How will you, in terms of, you'll be asking your patrons, say on a Friday, Saturday, you've got some live music on, how many patrons are you expecting to be in your pub, or what's the capacity?
We would expect to be approximately 100.
So if you've got 100 people leaving at midnight on a Friday, Saturday, so it'd be a Saturday morning stroke Sunday morning. How would these will be managed? You say you'd have signage outside, so if there were an issue, because I'm aware now that you don't have SIA staff unless it's gone over the hours on the bank holiday. So who will be actually managing these people?
The half an hour wind down period is very efficient in allowing people to leave in dribs and drabs. So you're not shutting off the music and pushing people out the door, because that's when you will get problems. So in these 30 minutes, we'd expect the people to disperse in groups of 2s to 4s to 6s. In all of our other pubs, the signage does seem to work. We've never had any problems with noise abatements or any issues. If we were to witness customers that were possibly hanging around outside waiting for a cab but not being quiet or being a bit rowdy, we would go out, our manager would go out and have a word with them, tell them that it's a residential area, and to obviously be respectful of that. If for any reason that wasn't adhered to, they would be refused entry the next time they attend our premises. So,
let me get it straight. So, on a Friday, Saturday, you've got 100 people in there, they're leaving in dribs and drabs, and if there were to be an issue, the manager of the establishment on the night, he would go outside himself and obviously deal with it. Then how would this be recorded?
We'd have an incident logbook with all incidents of any kind are recorded.
I'm just going to add on this point again. So I've got absolutely clear, and the committee is absolutely clear about this. So there's no SIA staff on Friday and Saturday when you have live music. You've got up to 100 patrons in the premises, and should there be any issues, it will be solely the responsibility of the staff that you have, the manager, to go outside of the premises as well to deal with this.
If that is necessary and safe for our staff, yes. It's the way that we operate in Northwood. It's our style of management that works across all our premises.
You've written down in public safety the phone number of an allocated taxi firm. Now, how would you manage taxis? Because that's another thing where people, it's a common complaint that, you know, taxis stand outside, bib away, and that obviously disturbing residents. How would you manage the taxis?
Taxis, this condition with the rise of Uber is a little bit outdated. I'm not sure if you've used Uber, but when an Uber taxi driver comes, it's very clear what registration taxi you're getting into, and they alert you when they're outside via your phone. And that, unfortunately for taxi drivers or black taxi drivers, is how the world of taxiing is moving towards.
Back to the addendum sheet. An established procedure for confiscation of drugs, as agreed. Could you tell me a bit more about that, please?
Where is that?
Sorry, 8th point down.
This one, isn't it? If our staff notice suspicious activities in and around the premises, but mostly the toilet area, it would be reported to our manager. The manager would then quietly observe the persons that they possibly suspect. If they see something that they believe is possibly consumption of drugs on the premises, they will, if safe for them, they will approach the people, ask for the drugs to be handed over, and ask for the persons to leave. Once the drugs are handed over, if they're handed over, they will be locked in the safe and reported to the police for collection.
You've also, on prevention of public nuisance, sir, same sheet again, 3rd point down, managers shall be required to liaise with local neighbours to resolve any reasonable concerns. Could you tell me how that's going to be done?
I was hoping that any objectors would be here today. I believe one of them is part of the local residents association. We're going to share our office number and my personal mobile number with them, as we've done in our other premises. And if they've got any issues, we would happily meet them on site or visit them at their home if they wish. Unfortunately, none of the objectors have turned up.
Okay. Councillors? I'm sorry. Nothing to add? Okay. Right. Okay, we move on to now closing remarks from each party. Shouldn't take too long. We start with Stephen first. Brief remarks.
Nothing further to add, Chair.
Sir.
Nothing further to add, only you've heard the responsible operator, and hopefully you'll be minded to grant the licence as applied for. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, well, now we're going to move to deliberate. So if you all like to leave, take all your bits and pieces with you, and then we'll call you back once we reach a decision. Thank you.